Welcome to Alberta Impact. I'm your host, Bryce Lambert. Today's guest is Koleya Karringten, who is the co-founder of Absolute Combustion and executive director of Alberta Blockchain Consortium. Koleya, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. So Koleya, I met you over at the Atchison Business Development Awards show, and we got a chance to hear your story, which was absolutely amazing. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself for the people who don't know you, and just kind of where you came from, what your upbringings were?
Okay, so my first education in business actually started really young. My father and mentor, Darcel Karringten, actually started talking to me about all the things he was learning about business when I was about 3. At the time, he was actually a limousine driver, and he really wanted to be one of those Fortune 500 executives. And he was trying to figure out how can he make his way all the way to the top without having to go through school and without having to work his way up the corporate ladder. So he did this whole mapping out what all these CEOs had in common and found out ground transportation. So he started a limousine company with my mom and started driving around all these executives and started asking them questions. And he needed someone to talk to about it. And I guess I was I was willing to sit and listen. So I started at 3, and then by the time I was 5, my father thought, well, if I'm going to teach her business, I should teach her more skills than just that. So he put me through etiquette training, and he kept me there till I was about 16, where I had a debutante. Ridiculous thing. And by the time I was 8, he would start bringing financial planners to the table. So I would start learning about all kinds of things like compounding interest rates and fiduciary responsibilities. And then by the time I was 11, my father had actually shifted careers. So he had taken everything that he learned, and he had grown his limousine fleet from 1 car to about 6 cars. Decided after that long he'd learned what he needed to know and went into another business that he started himself and became an international public speaker. So he was teaching everything from corporate culture in the workplace to time management for results and intentional congruency. And so when he started his journey into learning that, he actually brought me along with him too. So I would listen to guys like Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins way back in the day, before Tony Robbins became as famous as he was. And I would sit there feverishly taking notes at 11 and this is how my weekends were spent. By the time I was, 14, I started my own business. I think as most kids, it's either a lemonade stand or a lawn mowing business. I started mowing lawns. And I had these little flyers that I started putting out, and I got jobs all the way from where I was in one part of the city through to about 3 or 4 neighborhoods. I was making $200 a week, which was amazing money for me at the time.
And a 14-year-old.
At 14, right? I was like, woo! And then my dad had told me that from a really young age, by the time I was 21, we were going to write a business plan and start a business together. And something kind of catalysted us doing that. We started writing our business plan at 20 when I was going to be a young mom. And my dad was like, okay, I know the kind of business we need to get into together. And because there was going to be a next generation, it was something that was going to be a clean technology that would help the planet. If it helped the planet, then it benefited the people. So we started that journey back in 2005 and then finalized and came and incorporated our first clean tech company in 2009, which became Absolute Combustion.
Awesome.
I still run today.
And that's ACI.
Yeah.
Yeah, you betcha. So then how did ACI kind of evolve? So you're a big Alberta advocate. You did a lot of your work here in the province and whatnot. So how did that ACI kind of evolve into what it is today? Because you had some pretty crazy opportunities that came up and about, taking it into other realms, other industries. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It was definitely... It's been an amazing journey, and I won't say an easy one. When we first started out, I actually remember what got us to focus on the oil and gas industry. There's a place in Calgary called Market Mall, and back then Lululemon had this massive chalkboard outside their store, and it was showcasing the greenhouse gas emissions and the pollution that was coming off of the oil industry.
Oh.
And we're like, we should start there. And so we actually spent the better part of 5 or 6 years specifically designing a combustion burner that would be able to deliver like clean hydrocarbons in a way. So using like half the amount of fuel, being able to increase safety, dramatically decreasing emissions, producing like we produce zero carbon monoxide. And the economic times were a little difficult. Like remember 2008 hit, which was right when we kind of launched and started. And we had this deal with an oil and gas company that split between two parts. But before they split, they were going to test our tech. And then they split, the price of gas dropped. And then we're like, all right, back to square one. Kept working on that. And then we got an opportunity to do another field trial with an oil and gas company. Well, got there, 2014 hit, and just, nope.
Just couldn't catch a break.
It was every time we'd get like that bit of success, it was like, oh my God, it's so exciting. We're getting out there, we're on site. They're like, yeah, oil dropped from like 75 to 35. Our budgets are gone. Bye.
Crap.
Like, there's just nothing for you here. And it was just like, well, there goes my market. And it was just like, I met with every oil and gas company that there was. And then I found the most incredible champion, Suzanne West, with Imaginia Energy, and she had this amazing advocacy for not just our province, but our tech sector, saying, we need to be first. We need to be the ones that are willing to take the chances on new technology if it can create that kind of benefit. And she invested in the company. She bought our burner. We tested it. We're really excited. And then she passes away. And the company that takes over her assets take our stuff and remove it. I guess they took a lot of the CleanTech that Suzanne had put on their site. And it's just like, okay, so I have this company my dad left me because he had passed away back in 2014 as well. And this amazing technology wasn't really catching a break. And then I got this phone call. I was 5 months pregnant, and I got a call from the Alberta government with the Trade Commission. And they're like, and I didn't know that they really knew about me. And they said, hey, would you come? We'll help sponsor you to go to an aerospace mission in Japan. I was like, well, been focused on oil and gas for a long time. But the reason why I considered it was actually this like powerhouse woman. Her name's Kimberly Van Vliet, and she owns Wave Business Development, and she puts on this incredible conference called ConvergeX. And her tagline is where industry lines blur. And she was the one who started talking to me about cross-sector collaboration and how technologies can start fitting in more markets. Like, I know you're focused on oil and gas, but what you can do here actually has place somewhere else. Like, there's applications for it in defense, applications in aerospace, applications in places you wouldn't assume. And it was like, it took her a bit. Like, I was a little thick-skulled as she was saying this. I was like, I've spent so many years, millions for oil and gas. Like, what do you mean? But I was like, okay, you know what? It's time to consider it, because the markets have just been doing this, and oil just every 7 years. Just,
yes.
And this doesn't seem like one of the ones that we're going to, like, come back out shooting stars with. So I said yes if they could bring me someone who could see my technology and tell me where it fits.
Right.
I have such a limited understanding of aerospace that I wouldn't know where to start. So I got an amazing opportunity. So Michael Couch was the one who gave me a phone call with the Trade Commission, and he brought Myron Keane, who's the VP of Commercial Real Estate at the airport, and a gentleman named Gerald Scottipold, who was the chief pilot with Canadian North, and brought him into the shop to see the burner. They're like, you can do this and this and this and this. And they just came off with like all these ideas.
Right
like,
eyes,
you need to come to Japan.
Yeah.
And I was quite pregnant while we were having these conversations. And I was like, well, my baby's going to be 9 weeks old when he comes out. So, or when this trip comes up. And I was like, well, honey, we're going to Japan.
Make her happen.
And I was like, well, I can't leave because I have 2 children. So my oldest now is 14, my youngest is 3. But at the time I had an 11-year-old. And I was like, well, he's coming too. Husband's got to come. Bring it over the baby. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because they walked me around the trade show and showed me this antiquated piece of technology that was like an aircraft heater, and started talking about the issues that they were having. And they're like, well, can you do this, this, and this? Can you operate on diesel fuel? And at the time, like, I didn't know if we could or not, but I was like, yes. Yes.
If we can't, I'll make it happen.
It requires heating, we'll do it. And we've never worked with diesel fuel before. So like that was a stretch. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to say yes. And we actually got, I think 70% of the people that went on that mission with us invested in our company, so that we could produce a pre-production model for them, more like a proof of concept. And Canadian North was incredible. They let us test it on their airplane. We made sure we got our insurances. And they tested. They're like, wow, that was like 58% reduction in fuel. That's amazing. And then the airport was like, we want to partner with you on this. So they were incredible partners. Like they came in with all the R&D support. We got to come into their incubator in their Alberta Technology Center, Alberta Aerospace Technology Center. And we got this beautiful bay that we were able to work in, and we got to test with them, produce with them, engineering with them, and then they ended up commercializing the technology. So over that 3-year period where we're having these tough times in oil and gas, just that willingness to like say yes and look at a new market led to like a fully commercialized product with a partnership I could have never imagined before.
Wow.
And now an industry where it's like, it feels amazing to be involved in it, because we recognize that hydrocarbons aren't going anywhere. We just need to find ways to use our land resources more responsibly, right? And find more environmentally friendly ways to do it. And that's a big focus for us. It's like, what do we have? How can we make it better? How can we make it safer? How can we make it less emissions? How is it going to benefit another person? And they just they shared that mission with us and worked with us. So yeah, we're really excited about the opportunities that we now have in a new market, even though Alberta's still not quite out of the oil hump. But because of that, we're actually even re-engaging and starting to reconsider that next go at the oil and gas sector. Like, third time was not a charm, but maybe the fourth time.
Hey, Rome wasn't built in a day.
No.
We get there, right? So.
And you got to get used to rejection. I learned that. It was just like, you're going to get 1,000 no's before you get that one yes, but that one yes could change your life. So I just keep following with that. It's like, it's going to work, and just that believing it's going to work. And there are days where I definitely don't think it, like, I have my head in my hands days where I'll just be like, oh.
Yeah.
But I have
fortune favors the bold. And, your story is really a true testament to fortune favors the bold, right? I mean, like, to say, we can do it, or stubbornness. Yeah, we can look at it a couple different ways for sure. Absolutely.
Stubborn.
That's so amazing, and your persistence, and I mean, being a young mother and still just throwing it in and getting, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to let this stop me.
I got to feed my babies.
Exactly, right? So that's so awesome. And you've had an opportunity to meet some amazing people along the way. Like, I've seen photos with you with Michelle Obama. And tell us about some of the other people that you met.
Oh gosh, how many amazing people. Well, I think everyone I meet is pretty incredible, but Michelle, I was definitely very excited to meet her, because she's an inspiration. It was actually the Edmonton airport was the reason I got to meet her. Cool. So they gave me a ticket because she was coming into town, and I was able to meet with her and speak with her, and just she's such an incredible inspiration. A lot of the amazing people who run businesses here that I've gotten to meet, some famous people. I think I met like Sylvester Stallone, Coolio.
We were just listening. We were like, literally, no joke. I took my wife on a drive. We just listened to Coolio yesterday. Fantastic Voyage and all those good tracks. Right? Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Right. So yeah, I've gotten to meet from musicians to actors to. I met Bill Clinton, so I met presidents as well. And yeah.
Well, it's such a powerful, like, it's such a powerful, the other thing too that I love about this story is that you were able to adapt. Like, you were in oil and gas, you were in the energy sector, and that perspective. And when something new came along, you were like, yeah, we can adapt this to make that work. And that's a really cool story. I think that people underestimate adaptation. People get stuck in their ways, and they don't need to completely flip the switch and change, but they can actually say, like, well, no, I can just adjust a little bit to be something different, or to fit into another and make it better. And I love that story of how you push to make it better. And another thing I really want to talk about before we go is your 3 Ps. You said this at the awards show. I think that's really powerful. Can you talk a little bit about the 3 Ps?
Yes. So Suzanne West was a big mentor of mine, and I absolutely loved kind of like the principles that she lived by. And it was people, planet, and profit, because it resonated so closely with our mission with ACI. It was like, we have to do something, and we kind of put planet first. Originally, because it was like, we have to save the planet because the planet is going to help save the people. And it was like, it's the people that is the reason why we're doing this work. It's the people that we want that next generation to be able to grow up and breathe clean air and be able to, play on a playground that wasn't previously a landfill, and that the oceans are still viable for them. We want that very badly. So it really is like putting people first and making sure that whatever you're doing will also have a positive impact on the planet. right? And it doesn't just have to be clean technology. It could be that paying it forward, just that act of kindness, but making sure that whatever you're doing is having a positive impact. And then, of course, the most important thing, and we focus on, is how are we creating a business case? What's in it for them? Because people are a lot more inclined to want to adopt something that's new or clean or green if they know that there's also a benefit from a revenue perspective. So, but it shouldn't be the profit that drives you. It should be the people and the planet that benefit.
Definitely, absolutely. And I should have ended on that, but I do have another question for you because that was fantastic. And again, like looking at the big picture, like you're really focused on looking at that big picture. And more people and businesses and industries need to start looking like that, like your mindset. That's really awesome. My last question for you. Now it's the last question.
All right.
Blockchain. We didn't get a chance to really touch on that, but the blockchain that you are involved with, you talk a lot about how how that's going to change the current sectors and the current industries. For the people who don't know what blockchain is, can you give us a quick, brief rundown of what that is and how your perspective on blockchain is in adapting and changing these different sectors and industries?
Definitely. Well, so blockchain at its base layer is a database. So a lot of people think it's this big crazy thing and it's all about cryptocurrencies, but truly at its center it's a database. It's a distributed ledger technology. And a lot of companies right now are actually working on antiquated databases. They have inefficiencies. They require a lot of manual entry. That manual entry can usually happen multiple times, so there's the human error component to that. So what I believe that blockchain technology can actually do for our province and for many of our land resources is, if I focus on blockchain and agriculture, I think, okay, supply chain management. What if we could more effectively manage our supply chain in a more trustworthy and transparent way? What things would benefit from that? Well, for one, human health and safety. So right now, say like Walmart out in Japan has been able to cut food recall times down from 6 days to 2 seconds. Imagine how much better and how much money, millions and millions of dollars, companies would be able to save if they knew exactly what quadrant of what field that lettuce was grown on, exactly when it was cleaned, where it was cleaned, how it was transported, exactly what the QR codes for the packaging that it was put into, and exactly what stores it was distributed to.
Yeah.
They could find that instantaneously because they put that on a distributed ledger technology, as opposed to going back through papers and papers and papers, because all these aspects of the supply chain are broken, right? Individual companies manage different aspects of it. They don't agree to a simple set of data facts. So you're going through individual companies trying to get to your end result, where you could speed that up and imagine how many, the impact of human lives just with that one. Another one would be everything from birth to burger. So if we're having issues with trade wars because they're concerned about, what's the transparency? How is this cattle actually managed? How do we make sure there's no forgeries? Having a database that is immutable and unable to be manipulated, and then being able to show Bessie was born from this and this, this bull and this calf, or this, I'm sorry, I don't know the name for a female cow. Grown on this plot of land, fed these kind of things at this period of time. Things, and every time it had a veterinary check, that information goes into that ledger, so that when you go to actually process that meat and go to ship it, you can show complete chain of custody protocol, complete transparency, and now we'll be able to export precious our cattle products better.
Right.
So think of that even with Louis Vuitton bags. There's so many things that are fakes and forgeries these days. If you were able to have it time-stamped and in a ledger that was not able to be manipulated, you'd be able to prove out by scanning something as simple as an RFID chip in that bag and saying, nope, this is authentic.
Right.
Right? Even think for musicians.
Yeah.
Right? All the musicians right now that are having issues with who came up with what song first, or this lyric or this beat, something like that.
Yeah.
If you actually were able to put that up into a DLT that's immutable, you can actually say, no, I actually did come up with this first. You wouldn't need to go through the expensive prices of litigation and stuff. So there's benefits in terms of trust, transparency, better communication. But the thing I love about focusing on blockchain, the Alberta Blockchain Consortium is one Suzanne West actually came up with the concept for it.
Okay.
And her belief was that oil and gas companies should be technology companies with oil and gas assets. So what we do with the Alberta Blockchain Consortium is mainly how do we support our province? how do we encourage our technology sector? Because it's not just blockchain eccentrically focused. It's a holistic solution to technology. You need IoT, you're going to need machine learning, you're likely going to need robotics. It depends on the industry, but our technology sector in Alberta is world class, and I do think it's our primary resource sector.
No doubt.
Because it's our technology that's designed to be more innovative for our land resources like agriculture and energy, and that's the whole reason that we can have more economic prosperity. So we focus heavily on that. We focus on events and really highlighting the Albertans that are in this province that are doing amazing things to move the technology forward, to support our land resources, to make us more exportable. So we want to make sure that we support our province and we support our technology sector. And we support companies getting better revenues, because if you can cut out, say, millions of dollars in daunting paperwork and manual data entry time, that means you now have that money freed up in your OPEX budget to go invest in clean technologies or to retain more workers in time of hardship. So that's how we focus as the business case. Can this technology better your business? Can it help you make more money? Good, because if it makes you more money, that means you're going to grow your business.
Right. Wow. So this blockchain it can touch everything. It can go, it's applicable in anything and everything.
Well, I would definitely
to a
say
degree.
That to a degree.
Yeah.
Like if you're a restaurant owner, I don't think you need a blockchain or an ICO. You know, like there's
Unless you're trying to be an organic restaurant and you want to there you
right?
go. Yeah.
So we don't touch on much on the finance side. Like
Yeah.
we don't touch anything that's ever ICO'd or even things that are in the STO realm. It's the technology
Gotcha.
component specifically, just because there is that controversy around people not understanding what the digital currencies are. Like we will focus on, say, Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much right now like the best proven use case for blockchain technology in the fintech sector.
Gotcha.
But outside of that, we don't really delve into the scarier side.
The scary world, yeah, exactly. Well, and what you were saying about the tracking, I think people now and even more so into the future are relying and looking for more authentication. They want that authentication. They need that authentication, and authenticity is a big trend now to prove that things are real and what they are. So like you were saying with organic food, and what you're saying with some of the music and even products and stuff like that. And so it sounds like that's really going to help and assist with that kind of thing. I love what you said about how you were saying energy sector, oil and gas should be energy companies, but oil and gas is just an asset. I love that. Again, that kind of goes back to what you've done with your technology and whatnot. Things change the way they look when you change the way you look at things. Absolutely. And that's a really cool narrative to end on. So, Koleya, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been super, super insightful. A great example of Alberta technology, Alberta drive, Alberta advantage, and you capitalizing on that and pushing forward. And you're a great inspiration for a lot of people. And on top of that, a young mother that's just a powerhouse in the industry, which is super, super cool. So, thank you again so much for joining us today. Appreciate you coming down. I know you came all the way up from Calgary to come see us, and we appreciate it big time. So if you guys want to find out more, we're going to have some of the links for information to get a hold of Koleya down below in the video. And if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe and check us out next week, as we'll always be having more and more interesting and super cool guests to give you some more information and insights on how Alberta and the impact that we can have on not just our province, the country, and out into the world. See you next week.